Traditional humanitarian action has been based on three key principles, which are neutrality, impartiality, and independence. In 10 years' time, I think the sort of Western, the humanitarian system that has its roots in the West, in Western thought, in Western forms of charity, the organizations, the UN system organizations and the international NGOs will still be present 10 years from now. But the power relationship between the sort of old church of humanitarianism will have shifted to some extent with the emergence of new players that we're already seeing on the ground. And these are Islamic charities, states in the Middle East region that are being more active on the humanitarian arena, like Qatar. But also we may see the emergence of new forms of humanitarianism coming out of China. So there are challenges ahead. They want to bring their own experience, their own way of looking at crisis and at the obligation to provide life-saving assistance to people who are suffering from crisis. And there we have a tension between the way in which we look at principles and the way in which others from other traditions may look at principles. I think that this is going to be a healthy debate. I don't think we should shy away from it. But I think we also have to engage in it with an openness that so far we have not seen. What is happening is, on the one hand, many middle-income countries like Indonesia, like even Sri Lanka or Malaysia, have become much more able to develop their own capacity to address humanitarian need. And that's a positive, and I think all actors recognize that the state has a key role to play. But on the more negative side, there is the risk that with capacity comes also the desire to control, and to control, for example, who gets assistance and who doesn't, and therefore challenging our understanding, our traditional understanding of humanitarian principles. And that's where there is a tension in places like Sudan or Sri Lanka, where we've seen that the state has prevented humanitarian actors from assisting some communities. So what is key for me is that while these states may accept our assistance, they may be less supportive of our principles, and they will be more inclined to, dictate the rules of the game. So that again is an area where I think, saying, you have to respect our principles is not going to work. I think we have to engage and discuss and convince and show why these principles are important, not just for the life-saving assistance, but also for the protection of people affected by crisis. One key issue about the internal functioning of the enterprise is that there is not a clear distinction between what is humanitarian work and what is development work. And in some situations, particularly in conflict situations, it's important and necessary to keep a separation between actors that are neutral, impartial and independent, and those that are there to support the government, also to support, to engage with more political issues like human rights or advocacy for certain economic policies. So there's a need to redefine what is humanitarian. And it's a process that is ongoing, and I think that in certain high-profile crises it's more difficult, as for instance in Afghanistan or now in Somalia, where the international community and the United Nations have set up integrated approaches that sort of incorporate the humanitarian action into the peace building or conflict resolution strategies. The other key area for me is never-ending crises, protected crises. Afghanistan has been going on for 30 years. Somalia, Sudan, DRC have decades of humanitarian presence. And these crises continue. There's been an expectation that the humanitarians are there and that they will provide assistance to people who are suffering from these crises. But the international community has failed in terms of their peace-building agenda. So what is happening is that the humanitarians are somehow brought in to act as a plaster on a festering sore, and that's not good. I think humanitarians ideally should come in, do the work that's required to solve an acute crisis, and then move on. You know, it's the development people, it's the recovery people who need to be more present and more active. And I think this relationship between what's chronic and what's acute is one that needs to be addressed.